This episode starts with Dr. Culber making a log entry about how disconnected everyone feels since they've left their own time. Detmer is clearly having some trouble, but refuses Culber's offer of help. He attributes this to the ship being full of overachievers who are uncomfortable asking for help. They console themselves with the prospect of finding the Federation. Adira is healthy despite being a human with a Trill symbiont. They still don't remember how they got the symbiont, though. They just woke up with it in an escape pod a year ago, and they could suddenly speak 7 languages and knew how ships as old as Discovery work. Culber suggests taking Adira to Trill to see if they can figure out what to do to get the rest of the symbiont's memories back. They go to Trill, and their emissary, Commissioner Voss, is excited to have a symbiont rejoin the planet. Saru goes to engineering to ask Stamets about his spore drive jumps. Stamets says that he's fine despite his injuries, but Saru wants to find an alternative way to operate the spore drive in the event something happens to him. Saru hopes that technological advances over the last several hundred years could allow this to be possible. Stamets doesn't seem to like this and looks as though he takes it personally. Tilly thinks she might be able to figure out a way to make it work, but Stamets is very skeptical. Dr. Culber wants Burnham to escort Adira to Trill. He thinks her year of being on her own might make her better able to relate to Adira's predicament. Adira is confused as to why Burnham is their escort and asks her not to say anything inspirational. Dr. Culber tells Saru that everyone on the ship is physically healthy, but very stressed. He recommends that something be done to make them feel more connected. The Trill are very confused about the symbiont's host being a human, and being unable to remember the names of any previous hosts other than Senatal. Some of the Trill want to separate the symbiont, but others recognize how dangerous that would be. Pav, the Trill leader, insists that they leave the planet. Commissioner Voss tries to apprehend Burnham and Adira to separate the symbiont, but Burnham is able to fight off him and his goons. Another one of the Trill, who sees Adira as a chance to expand the quickly dwindling number of possible hosts for symbionts, agrees to take them to the caves of Makala, where the symbiont's memories could possibly be accessed. Saru asks the computer what to do about his crew's morale problem, and for some reason, the sphere data takes over and suggests he show them an old comedy and a dinner with them together. Burnham and Adira get to the cave, and Adira prepares to get into the symbiont pools. Saru is having dinner with the crew, and he reminds them of when they all agreed to volunteer to follow Burnham into the future. Adira goes into communion with the symbionts in the symbiont pool. Culber notices that things have become tense between Stamets and Tilly. Giorgio recites a haiku, and the rest of the crew try to come up with haikus. They ask Detmer to come up with a haiku, but all she can think of is stuff about seeing Stamets getting injured, which re-traumatizes the rest of the crew and annoys Stamets. Then they all start arguing. Tilly tries to defuse the situation, but Stamets storms off and Culber follows him. Everybody then sort of wanders off, and Saru looks disheartened. Adira's isobromine levels look like they're dropping, so Burnham wants to get them out, but that's when Pav and her goons show up. Burnham looks for Adira in the pool, but can't find them, so the Trill give her neural stabilizers so she could commune with the symbionts too. Michael finds Adira in this void filled with tentacles that sting Adira if they stay in one place for too long. Michael realizes that the tentacles are trying to connect with Adira so they can retrieve the symbiont's memories. When they connect, Adira remembers their boyfriend Gray getting his symbiont implanted. They were together on a generational ship that was looking for Federation headquarters. Adira feels uncomfortable with these memories, but Burnham presses them to continue. Adira remembers Gray playing the cello. They seem concerned about how being joined with the symbiont has changed him, given that he can do things like play the cello now. Adira gives Gray a gift, and as he's opening it, they get scared of continuing the memory. Adira accuses Michael of only wanting them to go through this because she wants that message from Senatal. But Michael points out how significant that would be for everyone, including Adira. Adira remembers the gift being a quilt with reminders of things that they and Gray did together. At that moment, an asteroid strikes their ship, and Gray is impaled by shrapnel. Their medical droids don't believe that Gray will survive, but his symbiont will if it is transferred immediately, so Adira agrees to be the new host. Adira can then see all of their previous hosts, including one wearing a Picard-era uniform, but most of which are wearing more contemporary Starfleet uniforms. They can also see and talk to Gray again. Senatal ensures Adira that they are accepted by the tall symbiont. Adira and Michael then emerge from the symbiont pool, and they are able to recite all of their previous names. Leader Pav and the rest of the Trill then accept Adira as well and apologize. Pav also implies to Michael that if the Federation gets back on its feet again, maybe Trill could join it. Tilly tells Saru that despite the dinner not going well, she appreciates that he reminded them of what they committed to. Stamets also comes back into the room to apologize to Tilly. He also encourages her to keep working on her idea for a dark matter spore drive interface. Dr. Culber again offers to help Detmer now that she can't hide the trouble she's having anymore. The crew is then called to the shuttle bay to watch an old Buster Keaton movie, and Stamets and Detmer reconcile with one another. Saru explains to Culber that the sphere data gave Saru the idea for the movie, and hypothesizes that because they protected the data is now trying to protect them. Adira, now that they can remember what Senatol remembers, gives Michael the coordinates to Starfleet headquarters. Also, Adira can play the cello now too, and Gray can appear to them and talk every once in a while. This episode is definitely my favorite episode of Discovery so far, and one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek overall. Blue Del Barrio was great as Adira, Ian Alexander was super impressive as Gray, and Haneli Culpepper's directing impressed me the most. The mood lighting was perfect for each scene, especially those first few scenes with Adira and Gray. This episode was so much better than the first 2 episodes of the season that it almost felt like an altogether different show. I thought the stuff with the crew watching a movie was a little cheesy, but the great stuff about this episode more than made up for it. This was an all-around awesome episode.